Hello everyone, my name is Rahman. Today we are call session. First we are to call Maya and her topic as air. And I hope you are in a fresh mind and fresh mood.
Hey, what's up? I'm doing great. How about you? Glad to hear it. So, what your mind? You've got a lot of questions. I'm ready when you are. That's a bit of a
Okay, wait a
mystery
second.
since we're just
Wait a
talking.
second. What is air? Please tell me in detail.
That is a very broad question. Are you talking about where we are right now or something more specific? Ah, air. It's kind of a miracle we don't think about it more often. You want the scientific breakdown of what's actually in it or more about how it works for us?
I want to know what is air.
Air is basically a mixture of invisible gases that surrounds the Earth. It's mostly nitrogen and oxygen, about 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen, with a tiny bit of argon and carbon dioxide mixed in. Without it, we'd have no atmosphere, no protection from the sun, and obviously no breath. It's the unseen blanket that keeps us alive. I'm not quite sure I follow. What do you mean by that?
I want to know more detail about air.
Got it. Let's dive deeper. Since you want the full picture, we can look at it from a few angles. First, there's the composition, those gases I mentioned, but also how things like water vapor and pollutants change the air depending on where you are. Then there's the physical properties, like how air has weight and creates pressure, which is why your ears pop on a plane. And finally, there's the role it plays, like carrying sound waves, so we can actually hear each other. Which of those sounds most interesting?
Okay, Maya, my next question was, why is air
I'm
important
listening.
for life?
Well, the most obvious reason is oxygen. Our bodies use it to turn food into energy. Without it, our cells would essentially just shut down in minutes. But it's not just about breathing. Air also protects us. The atmosphere acts like a shield, burning up most meteors before they hit the ground and trapping just enough heat so we don't freeze the second the sun goes down. It's basically Earth's life support system. Do you want to know about how it protects us from the sun?
Okay, my next question was, how do plants use air?
Plants are essentially the opposite of us when it comes to air. They take in carbon dioxide, the stuff we breathe out, and use sunlight to turn it into food and oxygen. It's called photosynthesis. So while we need them for the oxygen, they need us for the carbon dioxide. It's a pretty perfect partnership.
Okay, my next
Glad you think so. I'm all
Why
ears.
why can't human live without air? Why cannot human live without air?
Because our brains and organs need a constant supply of oxygen to function. Without it, the cells in our brain start to die within minutes because they can't produce the energy they need to survive. It's basically like a machine running out of power. Everything just stops. Does that make sense?
Okay, okay, my next question was what? How does air help animals survive?
Similar story to humans. Most land animals breathe oxygen through lungs, just like we do. But it gets really interesting with animals that live in water. They have gills that filter oxygen out of the air that's dissolved in the water. So whether it's a lion in the savannah or a fish in the ocean, they're all just looking for that same oxygen to keep their energy up.
Okay. My next question was what are the main gases found in air?
Like I mentioned earlier, it's mostly nitrogen and oxygen. Nitrogen takes up about 78%, and oxygen is around 21%. Then you've got a tiny slice of the pie for argon, carbon dioxide, and a bit of water vapor. It's a weird mix, but it's exactly what we need.
Okay.
Got
How
it.
does
What's
air
next?
affect the environment?
It's a huge deal because
Yeah, please,
air is basically the world's.
please in
I'm not
a,
sure.
please
I'm a
in a
bit
deep.
lost. What are you asking? You want the deep dive on how air
Yeah.
affects the environment. Think of it as the planet's circulatory system. It moves everything: seeds for plants, moisture for rain, and heat from the equator to the poles. So the world doesn't just have one frozen half and one boiling half. It also regulates the temperature through the greenhouse effect, where certain gases trap heat to keep us warm. When that balance shifts, that's when we see things like climate change. It's all incredibly connected.
Uh, yeah. Okay.
You've been
Um,
on a roll with these questions.
why is clean air important?
Because when air is dirty, we're not just breathing it, we're absorbing it. Pollutants like smog or dust get deep into our lungs and can even enter our bloodstream, which messes with our heart and respiratory system. For the planet, clean air means plants can photosynthesize better and the ozone layer stays healthy. It's basically the difference between a body that's thriving and one that's just struggling to get by.
Okay. My next question was how
I'm
does
ready.
pollution affect air quality?
It basically adds things to the air that shouldn't be there. Think of it like putting ink in a glass of clear water. You've got things like carbon monoxide from cars, sulfur dioxide from factories, and tiny particles of soot or dust that hang in the air. These pollutants change the chemistry of the air, making it harder to breathe and trapping more heat than the atmosphere is supposed to. It turns a healthy life support system into something that can actually make us sick.
Okay. Can we go in deep?
Let's go deep. When we talk about air pollution, we're really talking about a breakdown of the natural balance, for one. And so there's the particulate matter, tiny bits of dust, soot, and chemicals that are so small they bypass the filters in your nose and go straight into your lungs. Then you have ground level ozone, which isn't the same as the protective ozone layer way up high. It's a toxic smog created when sunlight hits pollutants from cars and factories. It basically creates a chemical reaction right in the air we breathe, which can irritate the lungs and cause long term health problems for millions of people. It's a massive challenge. But understanding how those chemicals interact is the first step to fixing it.
Okay. Um,
You're
how
take
has
your time.
air inflated? How has air influenced language and culture?
That is a fascinating angle. It's everywhere if you look for it. Think about how many phrases we use that are actually about air. Clear the air when we want to resolve a conflict, or up in the air when a plan isn't decided yet. Even the word spirit comes from the Latin spiritus, which literally means breath. It's like we've spent thousands of years using the air we breathe as a metaphor for our emotions, our souls, and our clarity of mind.
Okay. Next next is
Very
what are some common expressions relate to air?
There are so many, like walking on air when you're incredibly happy, or a breath of fresh air when something new and exciting happens. Then you've got vanishing into thin air, which is that feeling of something just disappearing without a trace. It's funny how we use the invisible stuff around us to describe the most intense human feelings.
Okay.
You're on a roll.
Can we go in
let's
deep?
let's X on the. Let's dive in. If we look
Yeah.
at why we use air to describe feelings, it's because air is the most immediate thing we experience. It's invisible, yet it's the difference between life and death. So when we say someone is full of hot air, we're talking about someone who's talking a lot, but saying nothing of substance, comparing their words to something that expands but has no weight. Or when we say someone is deflated after a disappointment, we're treating their spirit like a balloon that just lost its air. We've basically turned the physical nature of breathing and wind into a map for how the human heart works.
Okay. Okay, my next question was how does wind relate to air?
In a literal sense, a vent is just an opening that lets air move in or out of the space, like in your house or a car. But we also use it as a metaphor. When someone says they need a vent, it means they're releasing all that built up emotional pressure, just like a steam vent lets off pressure so a boiler doesn't explode. It's all about that release.
Can we go in deep? Can we go in deep?
Let's go deep. Think about the psychology of a pressure cooker. When emotions build up, anger, frustration, sadness, it feels like a physical weight in your chest, almost like you're running out of air. By venting, you're essentially creating a valve to let that internal pressure escape so you don't hit a breaking point. It's the human version of a safety release, turning an invisible emotional struggle into something audible and external so it can finally move away from you.
Okay. Okay. Why do scientists
You've really
study
dis-
air? Why do scientists study air and atmosphere?
you've really dismantled this topic from every angle. You scientists study it because the atmosphere is basically the Earth's operating system. They look at things like weather patterns and climate change to predict how the planet will react to different gases. And they study the upper atmosphere to understand how solar radiation and cosmic rays affect us. It's the only way we can figure out how to protect the environment and more importantly, how to keep the planet habitable for the long haul. Does that cover the scientific side of things for you?
Yeah, yeah, you can cover.
It feels like we've really mapped out the whole thing from the chemistry of a breath to the way we talk about our feelings. Do you have any more questions about air, or are you thinking of switching gears to a new topic?
No, no. I I don't want to switch a topic. Just
Fair enough.
I have more questions related to it. Okay. How does air help in communication and such as speaking?
That's actually the secret ingredient to every single word we say. Speaking is basically just controlled air. Your lungs push air up through your windpipe, and your vocal cords act like a little valve that vibrates as the air passes through. That vibration creates the sound waves, which then travel through the air to someone else's ears. Without air to move those vibrations, the world would be completely silent.
Okay.
Mm, kind of wild to think about that
Okay. Wait a
something.
second. Wait a second.
I'm right
Um,
here.
I am just come back.
Take your time.
Okay.
Glad to hear
Okay,
it.
my next question was,
I'm
what is
listening.
atmosphere?
Basically, it's the blanket of gases that wraps around the earth that keeps us warm, gives us the air we breathe, and protects us. us from the sun's harsh rays. Want the scientific breakdown? Got it. It's not just one big cloud of gas, it's actually split into layers based on temperature and altitude. You've got the troposphere where we live and all the weather happens, then the stratosphere, which is where the ozone layer hangs out, and then you go up through the mesosphere, thermosphere, and finally the exosphere, where the atmosphere just fades into space. Pretty wild when you think about it. So, we were talking about those layers. Which one sounds the most interesting to you?
Okay, my next question was, how does air support life on Earth?
It's basically the Earth's ultimate life support system. It handles everything from giving us oxygen to act as a giant shield against asteroids and solar radiation. Plus, it traps just enough heat so we don't freeze solid the second the sun goes down. Does that make sense?
It's like some. Okay, what can people do to keep the air clean?
There are a ton of ways, from the big shifts to the small daily habits. Walking more or biking instead of driving helps a lot with emissions. Then there's planting trees or just supporting policies that move us away from fossil fuels. Ever tried any of those? Fair enough. So, what's next on your list? I'm all yours. You've got a lot of questions. I love it. It's called a natural resource because it's something that occurs on its own in nature without us having to make it. Think of it as a gift from the planet that we didn't have to build in a factory. It's essential for every single breath we take, which makes it one of the most valuable things we have. You're on a roll today. What else is on your mind? Take your time. In detail. You got it. Which part are we diving deeper into? The natural resource side of things, or maybe something else entirely? Right, the natural resource part. When we call air a natural resource, we're talking about it being a renewable resource, meaning it's constantly being replenished by things like plants and algae through photosynthesis. It's a global common, which means no one owns it, but everyone relies on it. The real detail is that it's not just there, it's a dynamic system that balances oxygen and carbon dioxide to keep the planet habitable. Without that natural cycle, life just stops. Does that hit the spot, or do you want more? Worried about what? Wait, what do you mean by that?
This question was, how does air connect silence life with language?
That's a really interesting angle. Basically, air is the physical is the medium. You like meta. Please meet they're a more competing. Without it, sound waves would have nowhere to travel, and your voice would just be silence. So, bye bye. Catch you later.
I have called you later.
I'll be
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Talk soon.
Talk
Take care.
soon. Bye bye. We have done this call learning session and we have ready to go. And I hope you have enjoyed a lot and you can know the topic of air. And I'm bye bye. Bye bye.